Confidence is not what you think it is. And that misunderstanding has been quietly holding you back for years. You were taught that confidence is something you feel, something you build inside your head, something that shows up before action. That's the lie. The real truth is uncomfortable, and that's why nobody says it out loud. Confidence is not a feeling, it's a side effect. And most people try to manufacture the side effect instead of doing the thing that causes it. So they wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel sure. They wait to feel strong. And while they wait, nothing happens. Here's the first truth nobody admits. Confident people don't feel confident when they start. They feel uncertain, awkward, exposed. They just move anyway. From the outside, that looks like confidence. From the inside, it feels like tension. That's the part you never see. You see the result. You don't see the discomfort that produced it. So you assume confidence came first. It didn't. Action did. This is where most people get trapped. They believe confidence is the entry requirement. It's not. It's the receipt. You only get it after you pay with action. Now let's talk about how this false belief gets installed. From a young age, confidence is praised when it's visible. Speaking clearly, raising your hand, performing well. Nobody praises the internal chaos that came before it. So you grow up thinking confidence is calm, certainty, ease. It's not. That calm is familiarity. And familiarity only comes after repetition. You were never taught that. So when you feel nervous, you assume you're not ready. You are. You're just early. Here's the second truth nobody admits. Confidence does not remove fear. It coexists with it. Confident people still feel fear. They just don't interpret it as a stop signal. They interpret it as activation, a sign something matters. You interpret fear as danger. They interpret it as relevance, same feeling, different meaning. That interpretation changes behavior completely. When fear shows up, you pause. They proceed. And every time they proceed, confidence grows quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically, incrementally. Now let's talk about the confidence industry, because it's part of the problem. You're told to believe in yourself, to repeat affirmations, to visualize success. That advice feels empowering. It doesn't work, because your brain doesn't believe words. It believes evidence. You can tell yourself you're confident 1,000 times. If your behavior contradicts it, the mind rejects the claim. So affirmations create internal conflict, not confidence. This is why you feel fake when you say them. It's not negativity, it's accuracy. Your brain is saying, show me. Confidence is proof-based, not thought-based. Now here's the third truth. Confidence is domain-specific. You're not confident or unconfident. You're confident where you have evidence and hesitant where you don't. That's it. You might feel confident talking to friends and insecure speaking publicly, confident at work, insecure starting something new. That doesn't mean you lack confidence. It means you lack experience in that domain. But instead of seeing it as a gap to fill, you label yourself, I'm not confident. That label freezes behavior because now you're protecting an identity instead of building skill. High performers never ask, am I confident? They ask, have I done this enough times? That question leads to action. Your question leads to doubt. Now let's talk about the hidden cost of chasing confidence. When you wait to feel confident, you delay exposure. When you delay exposure, you delay learning. When you delay learning, you delay progress. So the very thing you think you need is the thing you're postponing. This creates a loop. No confidence, no action, no evidence, no confidence. That loop can run for decades, quietly, comfortably. You don't feel like you're failing. You just feel not ready yet. That's how people waste years. Now let's talk about ego, because this is where confidence gets twisted. You want to feel confident because confidence protects you from looking bad, from being judged, from being seen as inexperienced. So confidence becomes armor. You don't want it to act better. You want it to feel safer. That's backwards. Confidence is not armor. It's scar tissue. It comes from getting hit and realizing you survive. You don't get scar tissue from visualization. You get it from impact. Now, let's talk about why confident people seem calm. It's not because they don't care. It's because they've been here before. They recognize the feeling. They've acted through it. They know fear doesn't kill them, so it doesn't demand attention anymore. You haven't built that familiarity yet, so fear feels louder. That doesn't mean you're weaker. It means you're earlier. Now let's talk about the role of failure. This is where confidence is really built. Every time you try something and survive the outcome, good or bad, confidence increases. Not because you succeeded, but because you handled it. Most people avoid failure to protect confidence. That's a mistake. Avoiding failure prevents confidence from forming. Because confidence is not belief in success. It's belief in recovery. Belief that you can adapt, that you can handle consequences. That belief only forms after experience. No experience, no confidence. Now here's another truth nobody admits. Confidence often looks like recklessness to people who don't have it. Because confident people move without guarantees. They don't wait for certainty. They don't need reassurance. That makes observers uncomfortable. So confidence gets mislabeled as arrogance. It's not. Arrogance is pretending certainty without evidence. Confidence is acting despite uncertainty because evidence exists somewhere else. You've handled things before, so you trust yourself. Now let's talk about the confidence gap you feel. You think other people have something you don't. They don't. They just have more completed reps. More times starting before they were ready. More times failing and continuing. More times doing it scared. That's the whole secret. And because that secret sounds unsexy, nobody sells it. It doesn't fit on a poster, but it works. Now let's talk about why confidence collapses under pressure. People who build confidence through praise lose it when praise disappears. People who build confidence through experience keep it under stress. That's why some people crumble when stakes are high. Their confidence was borrowed from validation, from approval, from results, not earned. Earned confidence survives silence because it's internal, not dependent on feedback. Now, let's talk about the moment confidence actually forms. It doesn't arrive during the action. It arrives after, quietly, later. You finish something you didn't think you could do. You survive a conversation you were scared of. You recover from a mistake. And later that night, something shifts. You trust yourself a little more. That's confidence. Small, cumulative, invisible in the moment. That's why people miss it. They're looking for a feeling up front. Confidence happens in the background. Now, here's the most dangerous belief of all. You believe confident people don't hesitate. They do. They just don't obey hesitation. They don't ask it for permission. You do. You stop when hesitation speaks. They acknowledge it and move. That's the behavioral difference. Same feeling, different response. Now, let's talk about why advice hasn't helped you. Because most advice focuses on mindset, on thinking differently. But confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and you do it, confidence increases. Every time you don't, it decreases. That's mechanical, not emotional. You don't need better thoughts. You need better follow-through. Now here's the part that stings. You don't lack confidence. You lack evidence that you can trust yourself. And that evidence only comes from action, especially uncomfortable action. So the question isn't, how do I feel confident? The question is, what am I avoiding that would prove I can handle this? That's the real blocker. Now let's strip this down to the core. Confidence is not something you build before life. It's something life gives you after you show up. You can't shortcut it. You can't affirm it. You can't think it into existence. You can only earn it. And earning it feels exactly like what you're trying to avoid. Discomfort, exposure, risk. That's why most people never build real confidence. They're chasing the feeling instead of the cause. Because once you stop chasing confidence, you can finally build it deliberately. And the way you do that is not what you've been told. Once you stop chasing confidence, it finally becomes possible to build it. Not as a feeling, as a byproduct. Here's the rule confident people live by, even if they never say it out loud. Confidence is built by keeping promises under pressure. Not big promises, not dramatic promises, small ones, uncomfortable ones, promises that test whether you can trust yourself when it would be easier not to. That's it. Everything else is noise. Now let's strip this down so there's no confusion. Confidence does not come from believing you'll succeed. It comes from knowing you'll show up even if you don't. That's the distinction. People who look confident aren't sure they'll win. They're sure they won't disappear. That certainty changes everything. Now, let's talk about the first mistake most people make when they try to build confidence. They aim too big. They say, I'll become confident. It is. That's meaningless. There's no behavior attached. Confident people never work on confidence. They work on reliability. They become someone who does what they said they would do, especially when they don't feel like it. That reliability compounds into trust. Trust compounds into confidence. Now let's talk about the mechanism. Your brain is not impressed by thoughts. It's impressed by patterns. Every time you avoid something uncomfortable, your brain logs. This person retreats. Every time you face something uncomfortable, your brain logs. This person handles pressure. Those logs stack. Confidence is just the summary report. So when you ask, why don't I feel confident? The answer is simple. Your recent behavior hasn't given your brain enough evidence. Not because you're incapable, because you've been protecting comfort. Now, let's talk about fear again. Because this is where people misread themselves. Fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means importance. The body activates when something matters. Confident people don't calm fear away. They move with it. They don't try to feel brave. They act brave first. And bravery is not a feeling. It's behavior under fear. Confidence grows afterward. Now let's talk about how confident people think differently. Not more positively, more accurately. They don't say, this will go great. They say, I'll handle whatever happens. That's not optimism. That's preparedness. Preparedness is calming because it removes the need for certainty. You don't need to know the outcome if you trust your response. Now, let's talk about the real enemy of confidence. It's not fear, it's avoidance. Avoidance teaches your nervous system that discomfort is dangerous. So the next time discomfort appears, the alarm is louder. Confidence fades. Confident people do the opposite. They expose themselves to discomfort in controlled doses. They don't overwhelm themselves. They don't flood the system. They pick one thing. They face it. They survive. The nervous system learns. This is survivable. Confidence increases. Now let's talk about why fake it till you make it doesn't work. Faking is performance. Performance requires energy. Eventually, it collapses. Real confidence doesn't require performance. It requires alignment. Your actions match your words. Your words match your standards. When those line up, there's nothing to fake. You feel solid, grounded. Now let's talk about standards, because this is where confidence actually lives. Confident people don't have higher self-esteem. They have clear standards. They know what they do and don't tolerate from themselves. They don't promise what they won't deliver. They don't agree to what they won't follow through on. That integrity creates internal peace. Internal peace looks like confidence. Inconsistent people feel anxious because they don't know if they'll show up for themselves. That uncertainty is what you feel as low confidence. Now let's talk about comparison. This destroys confidence faster than anything. You compare your beginning to someone else's middle and assume you're behind. Confident people compare themselves to yesterday, not others. They ask, did I do what I said I would do? If yes, confidence grows. If no, they adjust. No drama, no self-attack, just correction. That's emotional maturity. Now let's talk about failure again, because this is where confidence is actually forged. Confidence does not come from winning. It comes from recovering, from failing and continuing, from messing up and not disappearing, from being embarrassed and returning anyway. Every time you return after failure, confidence spikes because you prove something important. I don't abandon myself. That belief is unshakable. Now let's talk about why confident people seem calm in chaos. It's not temperament. It's familiarity. They've been uncomfortable before. They've failed before. They've survived before. So chaos doesn't feel new. Newness creates anxiety. Familiarity creates calm. That's why confidence looks like calm. Not because they're fearless, because they're experienced. Now let's talk about the daily behavior that actually builds confidence. Not affirmations, not visualization, completion, finishing what you start, even when it's small, especially when it's boring. Completion tells your brain, this person follows through. That message is powerful. Incomplete tasks create background anxiety. Completed tasks create quiet confidence. That's why messy, unfinished lives feel unstable. And structured, finished lives feel solid. Now let's talk about self-talk. Confident people don't hype themselves up. They talk to themselves like a coach. Direct, calm, specific. Do the next step. Stay here. Finish this. No emotional speeches. No drama. Just direction. That style of self-talk reduces overwhelm. And reduced overwhelm makes action easier. Now let's talk about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that fear doesn't decide. Confident people don't eliminate fear. They eliminate fear's authority. You still let fear vote. You don't let it veto. That one change turns hesitation into movement. Now let's talk about the role of repetition. Confidence doesn't spike. It accumulates. Slowly, quietly. You won't notice it day to day. You'll notice it in moments that used to stop you. You'll hesitate less, recover faster, decide quicker. That's how you know it's working. Now let's talk about why motivation advice failed you. Because motivation comes and goes. Confidence stays. Motivation is emotion-driven. Confidence is evidence-driven. Evidence doesn't disappear when you're tired. That's why confident people keep going when motivation dies. They're not relying on feeling. They're relying on proof. Now let's talk about the final misconception. You think confident people don't care what others think. They do. They just care less than they care about self-respect. That's the trade. They choose self-respect over approval. And self-respect creates confidence automatically because you're aligned with yourself. Now, let's make this practical. Here's the confidence construction rule. You pick one promise per day. One, it must be small, specific, uncomfortable, something you'd usually delay. Then you keep it, no matter how you feel. No negotiation. At the end of the day, you don't celebrate. You log it. Kept. That's it. Do this daily. Confidence will grow whether you notice it or not. Now let's talk about escalation. Once small promises become automatic, you increase difficulty slightly. Not dramatically, gradually. Confidence grows best under progressive exposure. Too much too fast creates burnout. Too little creates stagnation. The sweet spot is discomfort you can survive. Now, let's talk about what kills confidence instantly. Breaking promises to yourself repeatedly, especially publicly stated ones. That trains self-distrust. So, confident people are careful with promises. They underpromise. They overdeliver. That's not humility. That's strategy. Now, let's talk about setbacks. Setbacks don't erase confidence. Avoidance after setbacks does. So confident people return quickly. No punishment. No self-attack. Just resumption. Resuming is the confidence skill, not perfection. Now let's talk about identity. At some point, you stop saying, I'm trying to be confident, and start saying, I'm someone who shows up. That identity is stable because it's behavior-based, not feeling-based. Feelings change. Behaviors define. Now here's the final challenge. This is not symbolic. It's mechanical. Right now, identify one thing you've been avoiding because you don't feel confident enough. One, then shrink it until it's unavoidable. Not impressive, just doable. Then do it today. even while uncomfortable, especially while uncomfortable. Afterward, don't analyze how you felt. Ask one question. Did I keep the promise? If yes, confidence increased, even if you didn't feel it yet. If this finally reframed confidence in a way that makes sense, leave a comment with one word: evidence. And subscribe if you want more of this. Not confidence hype, not mindset tricks, but the mechanics that build real confidence without pretending. Because confidence isn't something you find. It's something you earn quietly, one kept promise at a time.